go ahead and stand up and sing another song. It's I Release and I Let Go by my respective team. They're awesome. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I've seen the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I've seen the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. I do. I release and I let go. I let the Spirit run my life, and my heart is open wide. Yes, I'm only here for God. No more struggle, no more strife. With my faith I've seen the light. I am free in the Spirit. Yes, I'm only here for God. Yes, I'm only here for God. One more time. Yes, I'm only here for God. Woo, great energy this morning. Y'all have a seat. Let's continue.
Brother Prayer Chaplain, bring forward the prayer blocks.
We keep the prayer box in the back there. You saw where I brought it from. That's to allow us to put any prayer requests we have in written form in the prayer box. The prayers are then prayed over at this point in each service, and then once a month they're sent to Silent Unity to be prayed on over for another month. We hold these prayers as things we acknowledge. At the same time, we know we are whole.
Thank you, Cliff. Olga is now going to read the daily word.
Okay, I affirm wholeness and I am healed. And now my good doctor happened. The Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke tell the story of a woman who believed she would be healed if she could touch the hem of Jesus. The woman, according to the story, had been ill for 12 years. Seeing her, Jesus said, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." Amen. The woman's faith allowed wholeness to shine through the illness. She was healed. As an emanation of God, wholeness is my birthright. Wholeness maintains my body, mind, and emotions in perfect balance. I release any belief in illness, lack, or limitation, and focus my faith on the wholeness that has always been present. I affirm wholeness and I am healed. Jesus turned and seeing her, he said, "Take heart, daughter, Your faith has made you well. And instantly the woman was made well. Matthew 9:22.
Thank you very much, Olga.
Most welcome.
Let us all prepare ourselves to say together our sacred Lord's Prayer. Our Father,
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Let us just take this moment to pause, breathing in deeply, holding that breath for just a moment, and releasing. And again, as we breathe in deeply, let us feel that divine love that binds us together. And as we exhale, let us feel gratitude. And one more time, breathing deeply and releasing. Relaxing into this moment. Secure that all is in divine order and we are exactly where we were meant to be, where we are meant to be in this moment. And as we go a little deeper, closer to the stillness, we remember the truth of who we are. That we are all children of God, divine in nature, inheritors of that from Spirit. There is nowhere where we can go, and there is no time where we are without source. Christ is always with us, inside us. This morning, let us realize the truth that as we make ourselves less, we allow room for Spirit to grow within us and be more in our life. We empty the glass of our own ego consciousness and allow that Christ consciousness to fill us. When we stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead, we allow, we let go, and we allow God. In this moment, let go and allow. And as we move a little closer to this now moment, knowing that we are here together, that we are one, we experience gratitude, a compassion, a love, binding us together, supporting one another, resting in the comforting embrace of Spirit. And we move closer to this moment, closer to that normal waking consciousness, in gratitude, not for any one thing, just grateful. It is with this spirit of gratitude that we say thank you. And so it is. Amen.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
As many of you know, it's not so easy for me to come up here, but I sort of didn't have much of a choice. I'm the one who lines up the speakers, the guest speakers, and I guess about a week and a half ago, all of a sudden I realized there were 5 Sundays. And it's like, no. And of course, my immediate thought was to contact a natural-born speaker, Susan. But she wasn't. She was out of town. I had no idea when she was coming back. And by the way, I suppose you're going to make an announcement. We're going to be losing her. Yes. One less speaker. So maybe I'll be recruiting some of you. And anybody up for it here?
Talk to you after service, right?
Yeah, talk to me after service. So the title of my talk today is Restlessness of the Soul. And I decided to pick this topic because it's something that I've been experiencing lately. Well, it's something that I experience a lot of times, actually, but I've been feeling it more intense lately. You know, I went through that whole period of insomnia that lasted about 9 months, and all I could do was just get up and just keep going. But now that's been gone for about 6 weeks, thank God. And the restlessness has come back. Has anybody else felt restlessness? Can I see some hands? Oh, a lot of folks here have experienced that. And so I'm thinking to myself, why am I so restless? You know, so many things are going so well in my life right now. You know, I've got a great marriage, my kids are doing well, my health is good. I just discovered pickleball, which is going to help in that department. The finances are good. I'm finally doing this fulfilling work of helping couples in their marriage, and I'm developing my creativity through music, and it's taken years for each one of these to come to fruition. And so everything's going great. Why am I restless? Why am I still restless? What's missing? So I got to thinking, well, maybe it has to do with finding our purpose in our lives. And I'm not just talking about purpose like our individual purpose, like, you know, my purpose I've discovered is to help couples and develop my music as well, but something bigger, like what's the purpose of human lives? And this was a struggle that I went through many years ago when I was young. Some of you have heard my song where I talk about my youth, where I was just really searching, and it was almost like this tape recording just going over in my head over and over. What is the purpose of life? What is the purpose of life? You know, and things seem so messed up where I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Saw a lot of poverty, and you know, my family had fallen apart, and everybody was taking drugs and having sex with everybody. It was so confusing. And then I met the Unification Church of Reverend Moon, and it was through these teachings that I started to get some clarity about purpose. So I want to share some of that, and you know, I feel like it's fully aligned with Unity teachings, and it's based on the Bible as well. So I believe that if we really understood our purpose and was really fulfilling it, then we would just naturally be happy and joyful all the time. But I think it's because we don't really know deeply what our purpose is. So how do you discover what the purpose of anything is? Say you know an inventor. I was watching this documentary recently. It was on Hedy Lamarr. Have you ever heard of her? Did you watch this documentary? It was very interesting because, you know, she was this beautiful actress, like in the 30s and the 40s, and then, but she was actually an inventor. She loved inventing, and she actually invented this thing called frequency hopping that everybody just kind of pushed away, but then later it became really important, and the idea was worth billions of dollars. So she was always inventing, very, very creative. But people didn't know that about her. They just knew that she had this pretty face. So say if you were to go over to Hedy Lamarr's house, and she had all these gadgets around, and you look at this gadget and say, what the heck is this? What would you do to find out what the purpose of that gadget is? What would you do?
Play with it.
Ask her.
Play
Play with it.
with it, okay? And maybe there'd be something simpler to do if you wanted to know what the purpose of this object is.
Ask her.
Ask the creator. Ask the creator of that, because the creator had a purpose. So in the same way, if we want to understand what our purpose is, then we need to ask the creator, our creator. And our creator is God. And it's interesting because actually on the very first page of the Bible, God tells us what our purpose is. It's actually in my Bible, Revised Standard Version, it's on the end of the first page, and it goes into the second page. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. And God blessed them. And God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. So God gave us 3 blessings. Be fruitful, multiply, and have dominion. Right there, it's very simple. And if we actually fulfill those 3, we will be fulfilling our purpose. So I want to go into a little explanation of what these really mean, and maybe an interpretation that you haven't quite heard before. And this is based on unificationism. Be fruitful. What do you think that means? Any ideas?
Useful, be useful, do things.
Useful, do things. Any other ideas?
Create things.
Create things, okay?
Be creative.
Be creative. Okay, yeah. It's basically to mature and to get to that point where we can really bear fruit, where we can be creative, where we can express our entire potential. You know, just like a tree, it becomes fruitful after it matures. You know, not when it's only partway grown, but it has to mature completely. Then it bears fruit. And I think it's a little bit, it's pretty, I mean, I could go into more detail about the 2 other blessings, the multiply, which is basically to, have children, and it's about our relationships and filling the world with God's children, and then having dominion over the world with love, not in the way that we've abused this world, but in a loving and caring way. But I want to focus on the first blessing, because God has order to everything. And there's a reason why he said, be fruitful first. And it's when things get out of order and out of whack that everything falls apart, everything goes haywire. So, for example, so many people today, having babies while they're still children instead of being mature. Having babies because they need love instead of being at the place to give love in a mature way. So it's so important first for us to grow, for us to mature first. So I'd like to talk a little bit about how we mature, how we grow. And so I'm going to talk about both the body and the mind. Well, the body, kind of like most of creation, animals and plants, you just provide those right conditions, and the body is just going to grow naturally. And just like our animals, if we take care of them, our garden, if we water it, if it gets sunlight, then it's going to automatically grow to perfection, in a sense. But our mind, our spirit, is something different. So I want to kind of divide that into 3 different aspects: the intellect, emotion, and our spirit. So like our body, we have to, there's both passive and active aspects of growth. We need to take things in, and then we have to give out as well. So, our body has to take in food and water and air and sunlight. But then we have to actually use our bodies. Children just play all the time. And, as adults, we need to do exercise. When I went to play pickleball, recently my sister introduced me to it. It was just so fun. It was just like all these senior citizens, you know, people my age and even older, they were all like kids. They were just having a blast. And I was thinking to myself, you know, this is how the kingdom of heaven is going to be. You know, we're not going to be spending all day just sitting at our desk for 8 hours or standing at a booth, Amy, for 8 hours. And then going home and sitting in front of the TV for the rest of the night. But we're going to be playing. We're going to be dancing. We're going to be active, using our bodies. So with our mind as well, the intellect, you know, first of all, we have to gain that knowledge, go to school, but then we have to actually use it and practice it, put into practice the things we are learning, and then our mind grows. And emotionally, we have to feed ourselves. We have to be fed emotionally. Can you think of examples of ways in which we're fed emotionally? Give me some examples.
Loving relationships.
Loving relationships. Anything else? Music.
Yes.
That feeds our heartbeat, feeds our emotions, feeds our soul.
Other creative things.
Other creative things. When I was going through my insomnia and up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, sitting on the couch and thinking, the whole world is sleeping and I'm here, but my cat was there, and he would always come and lie next to me and just give me this comfort, just give me this love. So it's like, I'm not alone. Sheldon is here with me. He's my side. So we receive love from the creation. And if you haven't received that love, it's so much or impossible to give if you haven't been given that love. I've been working with a client as a husband and wife where the woman just didn't get the love that she needed as she was growing up. She and her 3 sisters were just kind of just left on their own, and I don't know what the parents were doing, but they were just left on their own all the time. So it's really hard for her to receive love from her husband, and she doesn't know what affection feels like. She hates coming to counseling because she has to talk about her feelings. It's so difficult for her. It's so uncomfortable, unnatural, because she just used to keeping everything inside. And so we need to receive this love. And then we grow by giving the love and by practicing the love and giving to others and loving others. And how about our spirit? We have to feed our spirit. We have to, ideally come to church and listen to God's word and study on our own as well. And this feeds our spirit. But in addition to this, and this is something that's super important, is that we need prayer. We need deep prayer to really feed our souls. And when we really are able to pray deeply, that's when we can really feel God's love for us. And I'm going to go into this just a little bit more because it's so important. And so between the three, the intellect, the emotion, and the spirit, there's a hierarchy where spirit has to be kind of the subject position. And when that is strong, when that's growing, it kind of pulls everything else together. Right here it says, wholeness maintains my body, mind, and emotions in perfect balance. And it was interesting because I found for myself that my restlessness was coming because I hadn't been studying and praying, especially with the insomnia for so many months. I just kind of set it aside. So when I started to study, it was like, it's like my spirit woke up again. Been sleeping. And then when I prayed, my heart woke up again. And so I'm so grateful that I had to do this sermon, because otherwise I might have not started studying again. It was just like, okay, I gotta start studying. I gotta get a sermon. But it woke me up. And so again, there needs to be this harmony between the three: the spirit, the intellect, and the emotion. And it's interesting because I have found in working with couples that if there isn't that spiritual aspect, many of these relationships fall apart. But, I had this one couple, well, it was just the wife who was coming to me, but she was a really strong Christian. Her husband was a really strong Christian, and he had an affair, but all he did was work with her. And so many times she would doubt herself. She'd say things like, am I a complete fool to take this guy? And I'm doing all the work. He's not doing anything, and he's the one who had the affair. But then she would go to church, she'd pray about it, and she'd find the guidance that she would need so she could keep going and try to have the right attitude instead of just following her emotions. And as a result, that marriage is at a place that it hasn't been for like 30 years. So having that at the center is so important. So I want to talk a little bit about prayer, because this is so important to me and is so close to my heart. I would say one of the most important things that I got out of the teachings of Reverend Moon and being in the Unification Church was that I learned to pray in a way that I never would have learned to pray, because he taught us to pray with tears, gut-wrenching tears. Because he said, God is our Father. Jesus said, God is our Father. And many times, maybe in unity and other faiths too, it's just kind of like, well, he just kind of said that so we can relate to him. And yet so many people have just like totally analyzed Jesus' words. Maybe take 3 pages to contain all the words that Jesus said. And all of these words have been analyzed, gone over, and so many interpretations. And yet this one thing is so fundamental, that God, he said God is our Father. He didn't say God is our Creator. He said God is our Father. And he spoke to him as his Father. Do you know what that means? If he's really our Father, that means, if he's the Father of all mankind, that means he is the most suffering being in the entire universe, because he feels the suffering of every single person on this earth, as well as those who have passed away. So if we really want to understand God, we have to weep for God. We have to feel his heart. And that's what Reverend Moon taught me. The most precious thing was to learn to weep and to cry for others. And sometimes I'll think, my clients must think I am the strangest therapist that they've ever gone to. Because when they are open to it, I pray with them and I weep for them. Have you heard that Hawaiian prayer where I can't remember what it's called, where you repent for others. And it's like that. We have to cry and repent for others, and not because they're bad, not because they did anything wrong. It's because they don't understand how much God loves them. You know, I had this one client, and he came to see me because he was in this relationship, and he was really clingy, and he couldn't help himself, and he was driving the woman away because he was so insecure about the relationship. And so he just came to me because he wanted some tools, you know, he wanted a method. You know, how do I deal with this possessiveness? Can you give me some tools, you know, some techniques? And I just felt like something else was going on, something deeper was going on. So it turned out that 15 years ago, his wife, who he was now divorced from, had an abortion. And this was a guy who loved children. He just loved children. And it totally broke his heart when his wife had the abortion. He said he just got on his knees and begged and cried, don't have the abortion. And then after she did have the abortion, he just completely closed his heart. They ended up getting divorced. And so I asked him, I said, did you ever process that grief, that loss? And he's like, oh no, I was just way too busy after the divorce, and I had custody of the 2 kids. And so I asked him, do you mind if we pray together? And so I just prayed, and I just wept for him in a way that God wept for him, because his heart was so broken, and he had lost that precious child. And when I did that, when I just cried, it was like it just opened the faucet, the dam broke, and he cried and cried and cried. And then afterwards, he said to me, he said, I never realized this, but I've been blaming myself all these years for that abortion. So many people they can't feel compassion for themselves. So sometimes we have to be the person first to show that compassion and love them in this, show them God's love in this deep and desperate way. So I just want to encourage all of you to really deepen your prayer life. You know, I have found that the teachings of Unification Church help me so much to understand more deeply God's heart, God's suffering heart, and God's incredible love for us. And and Reverend Moon has said, we're meant to be experiencing the intoxication of God's love all the time. This is what we're meant to be. And our purpose in life is to develop our sensitivity to the love of God. And he had many spiritual experiences, and he would say, the spirit world, the air there is God's love. So during your lifetime, it's a preparation for the spirit world. So during your lifetime, develop your sensitivity to the love of God, because it's all around you. You know, but you have so many blocks. So remove those blocks so that you can experience that love of God. And then when you go to the spirit world, you can be completely free, because you know God's love in the deepest way. And he said, you know, there's this thing in the Bible called the 12 gates of heaven. 12 gates of heaven. And he said, this 12 gates, that represents the 12 personalities, like the 12 zodiac signs. And so if you want to be completely free, you need to love each one of those types. Then you're completely free. So kind of like the caterpillar becomes a butterfly, and they can just fly freely. When we go to the spirit world, if there's no barriers, there's no one that we can hold back our love from, then we'll just be totally free to just fly everywhere. I know it's going to be like that. I've had those dreams. Have you had those dreams too? You're just flying. I'm looking forward to that. So I just ask you again to develop your sensitivity to the love of God through deep prayer. Because otherwise, if we don't experience this love, we're going to continue to be restless. We'll feel like, well, maybe I just need to do more volunteer work. Or maybe I need to work more at the church. Or maybe I need to clean the house more. You know, and that's me too. Or maybe I need to get out in the community. I just need to do more. But once we experience the love of God, finally, our hearts will be filled. Our hearts will be at peace. So I wish this peace for you and peace from your restlessness through the deep love of God.
That was awesome. We're so blessed to have amazing people in this church to give talks, and my gosh, if you feel the need or have a message to share or music to share, we're always open to new musicians too. So we're going to go ahead and stand and sing our next song, Heaven Guide Me. I love this song. Moving on words. So this is Heaven Guide Me again, Debbie, thank you. It was beautiful. As I knew it would be, didn't I tell you? All right, here we go. Heaven guide me, heaven show me the way, heaven guide me, heaven show me the way, when I'm lost and confused, heaven lead the way, when I'm reaching for you, will you meet me halfway? Heaven guide me. Heaven show me the way. Heaven guide me. Heaven show me the way. When I'm lost and confused, heaven lead the way. When I'm reaching for you, will you meet me halfway? Heaven guide me. Heaven show me the way. Heaven guide me. Heaven show me the way. When I'm lost and confused, heaven lead the way. When I'm reaching for you, will you meet me halfway? Heaven guide me. Heaven show me the way. Heaven guide me. Heaven show me the way. Deep breath. Exhale, have a seat.